Good morning. I'm going to take you through a brief overview of some key elementary functionality within the itslearning learning platform. We'll look at this through the eyes of a teacher, an elementary student, both early learner, which would be pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, and then an older elementary student as well. And then we'll hop into the parent view and see what they see. So just to start off with a teacher perspective, here we're in a course. Teachers have the ability to build out their course however they wish with content blocks here in the content area. This is what students will see. A lot of flexibility in how that gets set up in terms of being able to add content blocks. So you can choose from some that are created here like polls, rich content, and then some other options here by which you can add your email, individual learning plans for your students, those sorts of things. And then there's also our app library that you can choose to add some apps as well. So there are mostly free apps. If it requires a license, it'll note that right there on the app, but that's also an option as well. So once we have our content blocks set up the way we want, we can drag and drop however we want them to be set up on our course dashboard. And then even clicking here, we can change the color of those content blocks. We can change the layout. So if you'd rather have one column going all the way down, you can do that as well. So a lot of flexibility in how you want it to be set up. And then once you think you have it set up the way you want it, you can actually, through this drop-down box, view it as the student to see what they're going to see when they log in. Okay, so then as far as adding content, that's done through our course tree here on the left side. Very flexible again in how you can do that. So just by hitting this green add plus sign, we're presented with several options of content that we can add. So we can go in and let's just add a folder. Let's start with that. We'll just name this Unit 1. Now here's where you can add a description of the folder. You can also choose to make it active or not active. So if you don't want your students to see this folder yet, you can set the time span of when you want it to go live, or you can just say no, not active, and they won't see it until you come back in to activate it. We'll go ahead and keep this active for today. So save that, and then I'm going to go into that folder and actually add a few things. So we can go to add. So some things that really might be of interest to elementary. Things like a link. So if we want to add a link, we can go in, we can type the title of that link. We can either type the URL ourselves or paste it if you have it. We can add our learning objectives. So built into itslearning is we have the Common Core as well as Georgia standards. So you can go through and select which standards or objectives this activity is going to help the students practice. Again, do we want it to be active now or do we want to activate it later? And then with links, you have the option of opening it within the window within itslearning, which I recommend because the student does not have to leave itslearning, or it can pop up into a new window. You can decide that. And we save it. And then just to show you what that looks like, here's the BrainPop link within the itslearning platform, so the student's very easy to access without having to leave the platform. Some other things that might be of interest you can add to a folder or to your course. So things like activities, assignments. So if you want to add an assignment, you give it a title. You have your directions that you can put here, and also note that you have this insert button. So if you would rather record yourself, audio and video, giving the directions to the students, you can do that. It'll just pull from your webcam or whatever device you have hooked up to your computer. You can also insert Web 2.0 content. So if there's a video that goes along with this activity that you want your students to refer to, you can insert that as well. So you go through, enter the directions. You can set a time or a deadline rather. Is it mandatory? Is this active? Do you want this activity to be active now or wait and do it later? Are there any supplemental files you want to add for the students? Any learning objectives? And then you can decide if you're going to grade it, how. Do we want to use which assessment scale, which your assessment scales may look differently the way Connie has them set up at Lakeview, or you may have similar to this, but you can decide how you want to grade this, or if you're going to grade it. And then also plagiarism control, which I'm not sure if Lakeview has that yet. If you do, you can use that. If not, we can talk about adding that if that's something of interest. So then once we have this activity assignment set up, we can save it. And that'll be live as well. Let's go back to add. Some other things we can add. Let's go into, if you would like to do any kind of collaboration, you can do discussion boards. There's also web conferencing. So if you want to set up a web conference, you can have 10 people on at a time. There's also surveys. So if you just want to put together a quick survey for your class, or an assessment. So with the assessment, let's go ahead and just do this sample test. Same thing with the directions here as we would with an assignment. You can verbally explain the instructions or type them for your class. Add your learning objectives. Set a deadline if you wish to. How are you going to grade it? With what scale? And is it mandatory? And then we save it. The next step is going through and adding questions. So you can do that right from scratch. So there's several different question types that you can add. And then there's also the ability where you can import. So if you've already created a test, like I have created one test in this course so far, I can go back and grab some questions from that test and insert these questions into this test. So you can create it from scratch, or if you've already created an assessment in itslearning already, you can add those questions through this import ability as well. And once you have your test set up the way you want it to be with the questions, you can go into edit test settings where you have more options. Options of scoring, how are you going to score it? What's the criteria for completion? How do you want the students to be able to navigate their questions? Just one question after the other? Do you want them to be able to go back and review questions they've already answered and change their answer? How many attempts do you want them to be allowed? What about their feedback? Do you want them to get whether they're right or wrong after each question attempt, or at the end of the test, or not at all? And then we can save that. Once it's all set up the way you want it, go ahead and activate it. And that will be live for your students. Okay, and then just to go back and add again, I want to go to our app library because there are a few new apps that I think will really strike the chord of elementary. So the first one here is Crossword Builder. So once I hit Add App, it'll show up as an activity. So you'll notice it here now. So if I want to add a Crossword Builder, this could definitely be something fun for language arts, which is what we're in right now. It's very simple to set up. You enter a brief description of your crossword, maybe the broad topic that it's pertaining to, and then you can go through with your questions. So you would do the word and then a hint. And you can do as many of those, up to 20 it looks like, words and hints, and that will be a nice activity for your class. Let's see, you can also add, let's go back to our app library. Another new app that's really fun is Hangman. So we can go in and just do a quick search for Hangman. And when we hit include this app, that will also show within our activities. So you can do just like with the crossword, add a Hangman game, and you just go through as the teacher, enter the description, give the word, the question, and hints. And then you can choose the image, a monkey or an elephant, and that's what's going to lose their parts as the student guesses right or wrong. So those are a few fun activities for students. Another really nice app is, let's see, for elementary, J2E Infant Tools. This is a lot like, it reminds me of KidPix. So You know, definitely tying into language arts. So you can go into these tools here. We'll let it load. So you can see just a lot of nice creation tools. They can select templates. So if we want to be at the beach, they have different types of text and colors, different things to choose from. So this is a nice just kind of creation tool. They can record themselves narrating and what have you. So those are just a few apps that I think elementary would be really interested in. And of course, you know, through the link, you can bring in anything else you're currently using. So I just gave BrainPop as an example, but it could be any website that you're currently having your students use. And what's nice about that is that within anything I add, I can actually run a report and see if my students are actually going out to do those activities. So let's just take this PBS Kids website, reading website here. I can see that 3 of my 5 students have gone out to actually visit that website. So as you're assigning these websites for review at home, you can see if they've actually gone to it. And the way you can check that too is to go into their personal reports to view the student's personal information to see who exactly has gone out to that. All right, so I'm going to hop over to a student now. Let's take a look. We'll start off actually with this early learner. So this again would be like pre-K, kindergarten, first grade. And they have right away with this early learner interface, they have the flexibility to choose their background. So there's a few here. There's soccer. There's a princess for the girls. And then there's also a pirate theme. So they can choose from those. And then they can also choose their character avatar type thing here. So they can go through and choose which person they want to look like on the screen. And they can change that on a daily basis if they want to. There, you can just notice that this interface is much more simplified because these are young learners. They don't need the overload of information that older learners would need. So they have their bulletin. This teacher just put up a bulletin to watch the Sesame Street video, so they can click to watch that. They can also go into their course, and they can see language arts. Here are some of the activities that we've been working on. So they can go through and practice those at home. You know, just to show what that looks like. If they want to click on Sesame Street, again, they're not going to leave the platform. They're going to open it up right from within and be able to go through and do whatever they were doing in class. And they can go back to that main page. That Unit 1 folder that we just put up, here's what's in that. So they have the activities, the tests, the crossword puzzles. So you can see it's a very simplified interface. They even have a more simplified rich text editor. So here's an activity the teacher created. Create a sentence using each of your spelling words. So as the student moves forward, their rich text editor that you'll notice here is very simplified. They choose the color of their font, the size of their font, and they have a few icons they can choose from as well. So let's go back. You can also assign assessments to them, and this is, you know, you can take it for a grade, absolutely, but a lot of times we see this being used just kind of as a practice to be able to allow the student to try more than once if you want to, multiple attempts. We can also go in and see how the student did. It's very visual, and just you can see it's friendly for younger learners. So they can go through and see, you know, a star that's filled in means they got it right. We can see they got this one wrong because that star is not filled in. So they can actually go in and kind of review that. So just to switch gears, moving into an older elementary interface, this is what they would be seeing. And we can graduate up. So here we have pictures for the courses, communities, calendar. We could have words for this as well. So there's different options. There's also different interfaces. So just to show what else is available, here's the early learner that we looked at. There's also a space theme, which is what you're seeing here. Animal Misfits is what I have set up. And then there's the older more intermediate, which won't concern you since we're looking at elementary today. But again, the main change is that we can change these from pictures to words, and you can choose for older elementary between the Animal Misfits as well as the Space Rocket theme. So let's go into this language arts course with this student. Scroll down and okay, the student's actually in geometry, not language arts, but you can still get the same picture as far as their dashboard. So you can see how they see their planner with the assignments, activities specific to them, the announcements that their teachers have made, any latest changes, and tasks. So this student actually has an assessment to take. So any task, assignment, activity will show up for that student whenever they log in next if something new has been assigned to them. You'll notice the student has some activities in their course tree, so they can go in and review those and see along with their planner kind of what's going on with that course. The main thing I want to point out from the student perspective is the ePortfolio. So for students, every student for every course has a working portfolio and an assessment portfolio. So the way this works is I'm in the working portfolio right now, so you'll see everything I've been assigned so far this semester is here. And I can choose to take anything out of this working portfolio and transfer it to my assessment portfolio. And what that does is it gives me a nice opportunity as a student to reflect on what I've learned through doing this activity. So it's a nice way for them to reflect before moving on to the next thing to show what they learned. And once I then transfer that, it goes into my ePortfolio, which I'm actually going to show you from another student perspective. Let me go back over here and log out because that demo student does not have a really strongly built out ePortfolio. So let me go to this student really quick. So here's what an ePortfolio can look like. There's all different templates to choose from, and they can then set up their portfolios. So geometry, here's an example of one course. So it has her activities, direct links to those that she's pushed out with her reflections above them. She has made hers a public link, I believe with password protection. So the people leaving comments, that could be her teacher, her parent, her administrator, her mentor. So just those that have password access. So a lot of settings that can be set up around those. But this ePortfolio will grow over time. So whenever you start it with the student, it will continue to archive and show their growth long term, which is nice. Let's go back to our elementary student here. So this is just to kind of show you the difference between early learner and upper elementary with their difference. Just so you can tell it's more user-friendly for older grades. They have more functionality, as you are well aware, than the early learner because they're ready for that responsibility. So I'm going to go ahead and go now to show you the parent portal and how the parent can support from home. Give it a second to log out here. So as the parent logs in, this is what they see. So this is their parent dashboard, and again, they can have access to the school or district dashboard for communication purposes to see news and events and those sorts of things. But they'll also have their children listed here as well. These are 2 children that this mom has, and they're at 2 different schools, but it'll be the same login. So I know at Lakeview everybody's at the same school, but it could be you know, a lower school and upper school, those sorts of things. But it'll just be one login for that parent. So when the parent logs into their student, they can see different things like an About Me section, so they can view their child's ePortfolio. They can view just different information about that student. Her profile, which includes, in this case, we've added her learning style. It shows the relationship to that child, so it's just a nice quick overview. The parent also has access to each of her courses, so that geometry course, the parent can view what's going on, how the student's doing as far as her grades. So that's a report just like I showed you from the teaching perspective, but the parent can see it too, and they can see, you know, links if that child has not gone out to view the links that teacher has posted for her. If there's an activity that's been graded, they'll see that grade and the teacher's feedback. So it gives some nice insight for the parent. We can also go back, and the parent can also view the child's planner, so they can see what's going on this week for their child and be able to support from home. They can see the learning objectives they're working on, as well as the activities, resources that have been mapped to their child. So it gives a lot of nice insight to be able to let the parent support from home. The parent can also see tasks that that child needs to complete. So these are tasks for all of her courses. So they can see deadlines that are approaching and those sorts of things. They can also go in and see attendance, if that's being tracked through its learning, behavior, grade book. So it all depends on what functionality you're using, but they can see whatever you allow them to see, including the individual learning plan if the child has one. So this is Emma's individual learning plan. She's working on things like critical thinking, public speaking, and this is just a really nice way to keep everyone connected with what are the goals, what are the tasks we're working on, and how is the progress coming along. So the parent, the teacher, the student, the administrator, those that are given access can all view this child's ILP to help support her. So I hope this has been helpful. I just wanted to give a quick overview of some elementary functionality as far as a teacher, what she can do, he or she can do to add things to a course that are elementary friendly. What does it look like from the student perspective, both early learner and upper elementary student? And then the parent, how can they support? What does the portal look like for them? I do want to point you to our website because you can find further information there. So from the main page, if you go to Community, there's a drop down for teacher recipes. And these are actually from actual teachers giving tips on how to use its learning. So, you know, there's some easy ones for teachers new to its learning. There are some intermediate. There are some advanced. And you'll see the tag for really what they're for based on the name. So that's a good resource for you, as well as just a lot of areas on the website that you can use to help you. Of course, reach out with any questions. I'll channel those through Connie. So if you have any additional questions, please direct those to Connie, and I know that she will follow up with me about those. So thanks for reviewing this video. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will look forward to speaking soon. Thank you.